Hi, Principal Matters listeners. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, here with my co-host Jen Schwanke. And before we jump into this week's show, we want to do a question of the week that's supported by Summer Pops Math Workbooks. Principals, when students practice math over the summer, math scores go up. What is your summer math plan this year? A great way to start is by ordering free summer workbook samples at summerpopsworkbooks.com. Reach out to my friend Pete today for your free sample at summerpopsworkbooks.com. Jen, you brought this question for us to sit on this week, and I'm just going to read it. There's a meme that says, I just sat through another meeting that could have been an email. What is the value of meetings, and how can principals determine what content needs to be a meeting and what should be an email?
Okay, that's quite a question, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, well, I should probably just throw this ball right back at you. How did you make that determination when you were a principal? I mean, I know my answer, but I feel like I always go first, and we should balance things out here.
Okay. Then I'm going to start by saying this. Whenever this took me a while to get to this place, Jen. So stay with me. By the time I was doing it in a way that I felt like was effective, I had built a leadership team, which were my department chairs. I would typically, the week before a faculty meeting, invite my department team, the leaders, in to see me for. We had two lunches, and I would invite them based on their schedules to join me for either lunch. And then I would bring a draft agenda of what the next faculty meeting was going to be about to that lunch. And then they would shoot holes all through it. And
Ah,
so this was the beauty, is I could vet my meetings before my meetings. And I could
right.
say, hey, here's the things I think we may need to talk about the next time we get together. And they were so cool because they would be like, yeah, that's an important piece. But this one over here, we don't need to talk about that. We talked about that last time. And is anybody else struggling with this? Or is this just maybe somebody you need to talk to, Will, instead of everybody? And or did you realize that this tension has been existing for the last week and nobody's addressed this and it needs to be addressed? So we would kind of work it out in advance of me stepping in a meeting. And so I don't know, gents. That's where I would start. Is just by saying, don't bring things to me. If you're just showing up with your agenda to a meeting and you haven't run it by anybody else first, then save yourself some time and run it by other people first before you do. You're smiling because right behind me, they can't see this, is our cat Nitro, who's just jumped up on the counter behind me, and he's just dancing back and forth, back and forth. So
Oh,
sorry,
listeners.
listeners.
Yeah, listeners. I would say 90% of Will and I recording is kind of a snooze fest. But every now and then, one of our pets makes a cameo, and, one of our family members does. I remember one time years ago, we were recording, Will, and your dog got really barky, and you were
Uh-huh.
not happy with that dog. And
Yeah.
then I think the next week, my dog did. So, anyway, yes, it was a beautiful appearance from Will's cat behind his head. And it was funny because the cat looked like he was on Will's shoulder, just the way the shelf
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Anyway, Will, I think my answer to that would be very similar. I think you vet it, right? And I love to start those meetings with my team or my department heads or whatever by saying, guys, is this a meeting we can cancel? Lead with that.
Yeah.
And then say, let's look at the agenda. And a lot of times we will get to the place where no, this can't be an email because there's going to be a lot of questions or because it's going to be really hard information for them to receive. It's going to be challenging. We're going to need to talk through the why. So I always start from the place of wanting to cancel and many times get talked out of it. And I think by doing that, the teachers and staff are trusting that it's been talked about, because your team is going to say, we had a pre meeting informally when we talked about this earlier. Dot dot dot. And so people are going to know that you didn't just arbitrarily say we're having a meeting because it's the second Tuesday of the month and we always have a meeting on the second Tuesday of the month. They're going to know that it was thought about. So yes, let's none of us work in isolation. Let's all rely on those checks and balances that will tell us whether it can just be an email.
Well, the second part of your question was, when can it just be an email, and what happens when people
Right.
don't read them? So I'll just say it straight up. Some people read their emails and some don't, and you can't always control who does and who doesn't. Some
Mm-hmm.
people listen in your meetings and some don't, and you can't
Mm-hmm.
always control who does and who doesn't. So obviously, multiple ways of communicating one thing can be important. And it doesn't mean you overwhelm people with communication, but just do your best. But there were a few times where I would decide, okay, I've got a few things I want to say that I can just send out rather than have a meeting. And so there was a couple of times I would do a quick video of myself, just like with a Zoom, of just, hey teachers, here's a few things I wanted you to know. I didn't want to pull you into a meeting, but I want you to just to hear these things through me explaining it, not just in email. So please take a minute, watch this, and then thank you for your time. There's a sign-in sheet, by the way, in the office to just come by and mark that you listened to this.
Hmm.
And so that
Yeah.
it's two things. One, it gives them a chance to hear me say something they didn't have to come to a meeting for. And then two, there's a little measure of accountability, so I can actually see who didn't check off their name that they got the message.
It does three things well. There's a third thing, and that is they can do it at their own time when their mindset is in the right place.
Yeah.
I once worked for somebody who did that, and I would watch the videos at night when I had quiet time, when I could really think about it and really listen. So it gives a lot of agency to the people you're sending to. But like you said, there's some people who aren't going to listen to it. And then that's where you land on that degree of accountability. Hey, I've given the information. And if you didn't get the information, then the repercussions are going to be there in whatever form for you. And if there are no repercussions, then maybe the information did not need to go out in that way. So
Love it.
good checks and balances for everybody.
All right. Well, Jen, I know listeners are going to enjoy today's conversation as we step into this podcast. So thank you for the time that you took to listen to our Q&A. And Jen, if folks want to stay connected with you this week, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me at jenschwanke.com. Reach out anytime. And Will, where can they find you?
They can find all of these resources at williamdparker.com. And thank you guys for listening. And until next time, thanks for doing what matters. As a school leader, you have a vision of a thriving, supportive educational environment where every teacher and student can succeed. With DigiCoach, you can turn that vision into reality. Imagine walking into a classroom with DigiCoach on your mobile device. Its customizable look-fors and pre-written feedback statements streamline your feedback process, saving you precious time. You're not just observing, you're actively supporting your teachers while generating data to drive instructional change. With the new coaching plan feature, you can effortlessly document action plans and coaching conversations. This ensures every teacher is supported and you can track their progress related to your campus goals. DigiCoach empowers you to customize the platform to fit your specific needs, reinforcing your vision at every step. And when you need support, the DigiCoach team becomes your team, with consulting efforts focused on realizing your organization's goals. By using DigiCoach, you lead your school to remarkable progress. Ready to turn your vision into reality? Visit digicoach.com and tell them that Will Parker sent you. Hi, friends. Did you know that Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, has been downloaded over 1.5 million times? We are so proud to share conversations, interviews, and resources to support leaders like you who are serving school communities worldwide. And I'd like to invite you to explore our books, our professional development offerings, our Grow Academies, our masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations, because we're here to help you and your teams build schools that you're proud to call home. So here's my question. How are you planning to keep growing in the semester ahead? We're booking events right now for the next 2 years, and we would love to serve you in person or virtually. So visit williamdparker.com and click services, or email me at will@williamdparker.com to connect. I would love to hear from you. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of today's show.
You're listening to Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast.
Principal Matters Podcast, episode 435. Hi, friends. This is Will Parker, host of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast, where each week we bring you inspiring, innovative, and imaginative ideas for your own school leadership. This week, I'm talking to my special guest, Wilnic Gideon, about empowering teen learners. Dr. Wilnic Gideon is a dedicated educator, author, and advocate committed to empowering teenagers and their families. With over a decade of experience as a middle school principal, assistant principal, and dean in Washington State and Florida, Wilnic has honed his expertise in adolescent development. He's the author of 2 books Mindful Learning, Unlocking the Gifts of the Teenage Brain, and his newest book, Raising Ready Teens, 21 Essential Milestones for Learning in Life. Drawing on his academic research and real world experience, Wilnic provides a practical strategy for supporting teens' cognitive, emotional, and social growth and leaving a lasting positive impact on the communities that you serve. Dr. Wilnic Gideon, welcome to Principal Matters Podcast. Why don't you fill in the gaps on that intro and tell listeners something else they may be surprised to know about you?
Sure. Thank you for allowing me to be in the podcast today. I've been a fan since COVID, and I appreciate the opportunity. I'm Dr. Wilnic Gideon, an educational leader, author, and advocate for adolescent development with over a decade of experience in administration. I've served as a principal, assistant principal, dean in Florida and in Washington, and focusing on enhancing outcomes for building strong community partnerships. I do hold a doctorate of education and an MBA from Lynn University, along with a master's degree in educational leadership and a bachelor's of science in secondary mathematics education from the Florida State University.
Yeah.
Something else listeners may be surprised to know about me is I have a passion for songwriting. This love is for creating music when I was a child, writing poetry and a notebook given to me by a teacher. Over time, it has evolved into my creative outlet that has helped me to stay connected to my authentic self. Songwriting has also become a way to reset when leadership challenges arise, keeping my mind sharp and encouraging innovative thinking. It's not just creativity isn't just personal, it's a leadership tool that I use to connect and inspire students, families, and staff.
Well, Nick, I shared that same passion for music and songs. And to start behind me, I have some guitars hanging in my keyboard and piano. And man, what a joy to be able
Yes.
to, not just, we do this. We're going to talk about your work, but I think it's so important for us to cultivate the things that bring us joy. And
Yes.
so do you ever share any of your poetry live?
The last time I actually shared any of my poetry was in college at Florida State University. I was part of this group of poets that did some monologues or a poetry event at Florida State University. So I did that. That was like the last time I actually presented my poem.
Yeah.
And then a long time ago, I had one of my poems published, but that was maybe 18 years ago, but I can't even find it online anymore.
What about singing? Do you get to do that publicly, or do you share that with family?
I used to aspire to be a singer a long time ago, but I just basically just do it for fun, just for myself. And so I didn't really start. I stopped writing when I got into college, 16 years ago, as a sophomore in college, and then it just came back up 4 years ago. So I do it personally for myself and just make music for the contents that I create or, for my family, etc.
That's awesome. Well, to set the stage for Principal Matters listeners, we have a mutual friend, Dr. Nick Davies, who's also a principal in Washington State, and he connected us. He said, "Well, you've got to meet Wilnic. He's just doing such amazing work." And you and I talked off the air about the fact that, you moved from Florida State to Washington State to be close to your significant other, who is
Yes,
now
that's
your
correct.
wife, and you guys have a baby boy.
Yes.
And so, man, there's so much I want to talk about in this conversation, Wilnic, but you have a passion for so many things, obviously, for the things you just described, your poetry, your singing, your relationships. But man, you have a passion for learning. I mean, you get your doctorate, you've got 2 books, one who just brand new that just came out in January. And I want to talk about those things. So I'm not even sure where I want to begin. So let's back up to your first book, Mindful
Yes.
Learning, Unlocking the Gifts of the Teenage Brain.
Yes.
Can you tell us how your research on brain science, but also your work with teens has influenced your practices as an education leader?
Yes, my research on teenage brain has been foundational to how I approach leadership. Adolescent is a period of incredible growth and change, and understanding the science behind it allows me to meet students where they are. My first taste with this work was when I was a student, receiving mentorship when I was in school. And then I did a dissertation on mentorship. And my dissertation was focused on mentoring youth. And one of the key takeaways was that relationships were at the core of the development of students. That understanding is now how embedded in how I work with students, families, and educators. During this period of time, adolescents are navigating brain development that impacts everything from decision making to emotional regulation, academic motivation. And as an educational leader, I realized that many of these behaviors we see in teens, the risk taking, the mood swings, or procrastination, aren't just teenage things. They are rooted to the neuroscience. And so to apply this research, I've integrated mindfulness practices, social emotional learning to our systems. I work with teachers to design environments where students feel psychologically safe to take risk, fail, and grow. I also emphasize the importance of executive functioning, goal setting, emotional regulations, which are all critical for success during this stage of development.
Wow. Okay, so let's back up, because if you're working with teachers and trying to help them create the kinds of environments of stability for, you know, brain development that we know, and you said it so beautifully, where kids are prone to risk taking, they're prone to mood swings, they're prone to de deregulation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Talk about, like, what are some practical ways you've tried to help teachers think about designing their learning and their classroom environments to give kids and students those safe learning environments?
One of the things that we are able to have is an advisory every Fridays. And sometimes we look at these lessons and we're saying, oh man, they really don't impact our students. But if you root the work into why we do it, the brain science around why we do some of these social emotional learning lessons to our students, then you will realize that the impact, and you can see the impact, because one of the things I also realized is that we are not just teachers of academics, but we're teachers of how to help students behave, and how we help students to navigate challenges socially and emotionally, how to tackle growth, having a growth mindset, how to believe in themselves, and how to learn from failure and take risks. So our jobs, and if we don't teach these things, then when our students encounter difficult times within their academics, then it will be challenging for them to know how to overcome it.
How do you guys design your advisories? Because that's such an intentional way to set up specific time. And I know I'm talking to leaders, some of who have done advisory classrooms and some who may not have ever experienced that. So for the person who may be considering something like that for their kids, how do you guys design those with the kind of intentions that you want to? I like what you said, not just helping them grow academically, but really helping them grow as people.
Yes, correct. So we're lucky to have a school district that really focuses on this work, and so we have the curriculum that we utilize to teach this work, that is rooted around the research around it, and I'm fortunate to have wonderful staff members that care about the development of kids at this age. That originally we did not have a set time for our students to have this opportunity to learn, but my staff had really pushed for us to have a consistent time frame instead of the sporadic advisory lesson times. And so we were able to design that into our schedule, the weekly schedule. And so right now we're able to have this every Friday, and just help our students learn how to be students and how to be citizens in the world.
So your newest book is Raising Ready Teens, 21 Essential Milestones for Learning in Life. So I feel like this is like part two. You did that first book was just such a
Yes,
deep dive into unlocking the gifts of the teenage brain. And so
correct.
I just want to encourage listeners to reach out and look at that content,
Hmm.
because we could stay there forever. But I want to talk about this newest work. What
Yes.
motivated you to do this new work, and what can leaders expect to learn from it?
So, with my passion of learning about how middle, adolescents, learning, teenagers, and having worked with families over the years. I had my first son, and he's about to be 6 months old.
Oh.
And during the process, I've been hearing about milestones, and so this was after writing getting the first book out, and I was like, there's always milestones about how to support our babies, and they're telling you like, oh, after 4 months, this is what you need to look for, 5 months, and these kind of things. And I'm like, we should have something similar for our adolescents and teenagers. And so I thought of creating something that could begin to have the works in those conversations. So not only did this book was inspired by my son, but it's a motivation of working with teenagers and their families. I realize there is a gap in resources that clearly explain how to guide teenagers through this transformative process regarding brain science, emotional growth, and practical life skills. And so my questions would be like, how do we prepare teens for life while addressing their unique needs during this critical stage? And this book is my response to those questions. And so basically readers can expect a roadmap of those 21 milestones that I believe are essential for teens to develop into confident, capable adults. The milestones are based on learning theories like Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the learning zone model. And they cover everything from building resilience and self-regulation to fostering growth mindset and navigating relationships. The book also combines like strategies, and I created some characters to kind of relate, to make it relatable to our readers.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, and then we'll be right back. Why is IXL used in 95 of the top 100 U.S. school districts? Because it works. Research across 45 states showed that IXL schools outperform other schools on state tests. With IXL, you get a personalized online learning and teaching solution that helps you improve achievement, empower teachers, track progress, and more. This one platform for K-12 helps teachers accomplish what normally would require dozens of other tools. For example, as students practice skills, IXL automatically adapts to ensure each learner is always supported and challenged at the right level. IXL also provides every student with a personalized learning plan to help them close knowledge gaps effectively. One of my favorite things about IXL is their personalized test prep tool. For exams like the SAT and ACT, IXL will analyze a student's most recent score and generate a custom list of skills to help them boost their scores. If you want to take the load off of your teachers so they can do their best work, IXL can help. Learn more at IXL.com/PM today. Principals know a strong school starts with a strong team, making sure teachers feel heard, supported, and valued. But in a busy school year, it's easy to miss how your staff is really doing. That's why I'm excited about Alpaca, a new way for school leaders to listen to their teachers and support them well. It all starts with one simple question: how are you doing? And how easy is that? Alpaca's quick pulse surveys give teachers a way to share honest feedback, no long forms or 1 to 5 scales, just meaningful insights that help you know where to celebrate and where to focus. And celebration, Alpaca makes it easy. Each month, Alpaca delivers a teacher celebration kit with care packages, recognition ideas, and fun activities. It's effortless for principals and ensures teachers feel heard and celebrated. With Alpaca, your teachers will feel heard and you will feel like a stronger leader. Make a real difference in your school's culture at alpacapacks.com/Principal Matters and get 15% off just for Principal Matters listeners. That's alpacapacks.com/Principal Matters. Okay, so let's back up and talk about your chapter on Maslow's hierarchy and the teen's journey. So talk about how Maslow's research in that hierarchy, which I know most educators are familiar with that hierarchy, but just refresh our memories, Wilnic, and talk about how you use that as a way to think about that journey of milestones for teenagers.
Sure. Yeah. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a framework that helps us understand how human motivation works. And it's incredible. It's incredibly relevant to our teens. The idea is that individuals must have their basic needs met, like safety, belonging, self-esteem. before they can reach their full potential. And for teenagers, they're navigating this journey. Often it can often feel like a balancing act for them. And so, like, take the need for safety, for example. Teens who feel emotionally safe at home and at school are more likely to take healthy risks. They may try out for a team, participate in class discussions. When safety or belonging is compromised, whether it's through bullying, family stress, or academic pressure, it's much harder for teens to focus on their growth or achievement. So my leadership, in my leadership, I use a lot of Maslow's framework to ensure that we address those needs, including creating environments where students feel safe, supported, and valued, working with families to help them understand how these needs evolve during their adolescence and how they can create structures at home to support their teens' journey. I
Hmm.
believe that if we prioritize these needs, the students, and I've seen this, they become more confident, more resilient, and ready to tackle higher order challenges.
Talk about how your use of characters, because you mentioned how you've, created characters within the book to help kind of illustrate, I think, some of the lessons that. So talk about how that's helped you take these ideas and make them really practical.
Yeah, so just getting feedback from readers of my first book, I went to use a different strategy where I am able to connect to their own experiences. Maybe if it's their own child, students that they have in their classroom, or a student that they mentor or coach. It gives me an opportunity to give four different students with varying needs, and it provides a story for those kids and how each of their challenges may have come to some challenges, whether it's motivation, encouragement, or learning how to deal with certain emotional skills that will help them to grow individually. And so we tackle those challenges together through the use of the 21 milestones.
So give us a quick sneak peek of each character and kind of why you chose. I don't know if you don't, obviously we can read the book to get all of this, Wilnick, but I'm just so
Yeah.
curious to know like how you chose to develop each of those characters, and because as a fellow author, I'm always curious what goes to the mind of a writer when you're choosing um, how to connect those ideas to the name of a student or a character that you're creating.
Sure, yeah. So I just came up with some names for the names of the students in the book. No, with the intention of not trying to. Basically, it was a made up characters.
Sure.
And pretty much, I think of like our high achieving students. I think of the students that are involved in clubs and activities. I think of the students that are leaders in our building, and students that may be struggling in a math class or something like that. And then the goal is to have readers, because there's challenges within all of these different characters. And so I don't want to give out the surprise too early, but it would be nice to see everyone go ahead and read up more about the characters. But it gives you a culmination from a variety of different students, from the high achiever students to students that just are struggling through different challenges. But each character is going through a challenge, and each character can learn from those challenges as well, from us guiding them and supporting them through the milestones.
Well, I love that. And another question I like to ask authors whenever they're sharing out new work is what surprised you when you're writing something that's so important to you and so pivotal to you, and you're focused on these 21 essential milestones for learning? I feel like anytime you're writing, you learn too. So, what surprised you, and what discoveries have influenced your own practice?
When writing, you know, about students and doing this kind of work, I've learned a lot about my own practices, and some of the biases we have as leaders of kids. Um, One of the most surprising realizations for me is how often myself parents or other educators focus on outcomes over process. I think we all want teens to succeed. We have our standards that we want them to follow, and we have expectations for them. But sometimes we miss the opportunity to teach them how to navigate failure or uncertainty, which are essential to life skills. Another thing is that we tend to focus on, put a lot of energy on our students that are struggling academically, and sometimes we neglect our students that are achieving academically, and they also have needs and that they have. If we use the Maslow hierarchy of needs for each individualized student, then we can realize that every student has their own personal experience and their own continuum, and they all need their own individualized level of support. Um, and for me, I know as a leader, my journey is filled with like ups and downs, and so but my journey is also shaped by my failures and my setbacks. And so I think as adults, we have that experience, and it's important for us to teach our students, give those same tools to our students so that they're able to learn how to navigate this before they become adults. And so that's basically what I'm emphasizing. It's really the resilience, the self-regulation, how to problem solve in every given situation, and using this as an opportunity in these critical stages and critical ages to help our kids get that practice before they become adults.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, Wilnic. I'm going to ask you to take off the Dr. Gideon hat for a second, and let's
Yes,
pretend that you're on the other side of a kid who is struggling with failure and uncertainty, because I'm just bringing it full circle where you said we have a danger as leaders of focusing on outcomes without really studying the process. And so I know maybe this is a little bit of a role play I'm asking you to do,
sure.
but speak to that kid. If you were able to give some feedback to that kind of student, what are some things you would want to say that might be helpful for other leaders listening?
Yes, I have like great relationships with my students, and sometimes I hear how they feel others people think of them. They may say, "Yeah, that's what that teacher said. I'm a failure, or I am unable to, I am not smart, or I'm unable to do the work." And so they internalize that. And my goal, if I was that student, that can be a lot of weight. If you internalize what people say about you, and then you truly internalize that and believe it, it may impact how you behave in the classroom. It may impact how you want to learn in the classroom. When we talk about risk taking, we're not only talking about risk taking in the sense of something they do social emotionally, but academically, like kids will take more risk. They might not do the assignment because they feel like, oh, I'm going to fail anyways. And so, thinking about that kid helps me to say, like, what can I tell the student to break this lack of motivation or this belief in themselves, to create a mindset that is all about growth, all about development. And so as I'm looking at my son as a baby and I'm thinking about development, we should be thinking about development in all phases between in the K to 12 system, from the time they're born all the way to they're 18, because they need as much guidance and support to be able to make better decisions for themselves.
I'm not going to let you off the hook. So this is Will, the 14-year-old, and
Yes.
you're dealing with me because I'm struggling with whatever that behavior is or whatever that reason is, and I'm ending up in your office over and over again.
Okay.
And you're recognizing that I'm internalizing those things that you just said I shouldn't be believing that are holding me
Yep.
back. So speak to that, Wilnick. Tell me, what are some of those things that you would want a young person to hold on to as they're dealing with all that stuff going on in their heads and minds and bodies,
Yeah.
to help them think more proactively?
I would first say help that student to um, take a step forward and try to do one thing differently that they didn't do the day before. So you may have a kid that I didn't do no homework today. Hey, that's all good, sir. Or, what can you do differently that you didn't do the day before? If you didn't do your homework, this is an opportunity for you to work on it. The key is I've learned is that if they know that that effort that they take will create some benefits um, in their minds as they develop their brains, as they're developing as humans, it, then they'll more likely take advantage of that opportunity. Sometimes our kids think in a way of like, especially for middle school kids, they might say, "Oh, middle school doesn't matter. I am, in, this, it starts to count when I'm in high school." But then I'm telling him that the practice that they're doing every single day matters for their holistic development overall, and that the 1% trying to get 1% better every single day will exponentially grow them faster than not doing anything at all.
That's so powerful. So let's break it down. Let's make it simple. Let's give them something, that next step that they can hold on to. So it's not just this overwhelming amount of
Exactly.
tasks.
Yes.
Well, Nick, something I admire about your work is your commitment to the whole child in your
Yes.
learning. And so thank you for that passion, and thank you for your expertise and practice. Let me ask you this question before we wrap up. I have listeners who are both veteran leaders like you. I have listeners who are aspiring. They're just thinking about stepping into school leadership,
Mhm.
or listeners that may be starting a new venture. There's something new happening in the work that they're doing. What's that thing you would tell a leader if you had to sit across coffee for a minute and just give them some things to hold on to in their own work as they're moving forward, just to be able to keep clarity in their own practice?
Yes, I have a lot to say about this, but a few things I would say is first, listen more than you speak. When you take the time to truly understand the needs of your team, your students, and community, you'll make better decisions. Um, the second thing I would say is prioritize relationships over results. Strong relationships create the foundation for trust and success. And I would say, don't be afraid of failure because you're going to fail. As a leader, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. But remember, fail is the first attempt in learning. Um, an example of that was I I remember as an aspiring assistant principal, I had to do a 90-day entry plan. And even as an aspiring principal, I had to do a 90-day entry plan. And I was so caught up on the one-on-one doing the one-on-one meetings and doing those individual tasks before the start of the year. And it just felt like I was doing check boxes. I still do the 90-day plans, but I realized that it's an ongoing learning process. Instead of just focusing on that small period of time in the summer, try to create opportunities during that first 90 days to schedule times with teams and different departments, individuals, parents, community, and give that, weekly or monthly allotted time so that you can really learn what the true needs are outside of those one-on-one quick meetings that we do in the summer. I think that will help you to really quickly get to what the true needs of the buildings are in the first 90 days of the job, and where it's holistic and it's a collaborative approach to solving the challenges of a school.
Wow. Okay, Principal Matters listeners, rewind, and I want you to listen to that last 4 minutes of conversation over again. I'm just going to do a quick summary. Well,
Yeah.
Nick, so listen more than you speak, prioritize relationships over results. Don't be afraid of failure. And then prioritize allotted time to really stay connected to the collaborative relationships that are going to make this work happen with kids, with
Yes.
teachers, with community members, with your leadership teams. And that's going to look different from place to place, but there's a lot of similarity between place and place too. Well, listeners, the book is Raising Ready Teens, 21 Essential Milestones for Learning in Life. And you're going to want to get a hold of a copy, but you're also going to want to stay connected to Wilnic Gideon. So, Dr. Gideon, how can listeners stay connected with you? And what's a parting word of advice you'd like to leave with our leaders?
You can stay connected with me through my website, consciouslearning.com, and that's CONCIUS learning.com. It stands for Cultivating Opportunities for Nurturing Confidence, Innovation, Understanding, and Success for Students and Educators. On the site, I share resources, updates on my books, and leadership tips. You can also subscribe to my Substack, which I just started. There's nothing on there yet, but we'll be building some things on there for us to connect. And then I thrive from feedback. So there's a form where you can reach out to me if you have any questions or if you want opportunities to connect. I'm open to learning a little bit more about your needs and how I can also be supportive in your journey. For me, the parting word would be that leadership begins with understanding. Whether you're working with teams, colleagues, or family members, take the time to listen, connect, and empathize. I believe that investing in relationships and staying grounded in your why, you can create lasting change in the lives of those you serve.
Dr. Wilnic Gideon, this was such a pleasure to get to sit in the room with you and just pick your brain and learn. And Principal Matters listeners, I know you're going to want to circle back and look at Wilnic's content information. So we'll put that in the show notes. But until next time, thank you for the way you're serving your school communities, Wilnic. Thank you for connecting. Say hi to my friend Nick Davies. Say hi to the Washington State Association out there. And Principal Matters listeners, thank you for doing what matters. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Principal Matters, the School Leaders Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, would you take a moment and like, share, subscribe, or leave us a review? In fact, if you share it out with a friend, even more people can become a part of these conversations. Sign up for our newsletter at williamdparker.com for even more free resources. And don't forget to check out our website to learn more about our books, professional development offerings, Grow Academies, masterminds, executive coaching, and keynote presentations. Wow, let's keep learning together. And thank you for doing what matters.
Principal Matters.